Welcome to Media Rebel Unplugged. I'm your host, Janice Becker, CEO of Media Rebel, a digital marketing agency in Northeast Ohio. Joining me today is Tiffani Neilson, CMO of IoT Marketing. Welcome, Tiffani. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's great to connect with you since I used to work with your dad.
Well, he's quite the character, so I'm sure you've heard some stories.
All good things. So let's start easy. Tell us about who you are and what you do.
I'm also from Ohio originally, but now I live in Las Vegas, where I am CMO of IoT Marketing. And IoT Marketing offers marketing services. But in addition to that, we also created a series called Industry Insights Webinars. And I was the first one at the company to really realize that the pandemic was on the way and suggested that we quickly pivot from using trade shows as really the way to promote and market these companies to webinars. So the webinar series covered a new industry each month, talking about why technology is used, the challenges that are being solved by technology, and the challenges surrounding the technologies being implemented in these different industries, as well as taking a look at the tech itself and then providing forward-looking thoughts. So each month we would pull together experts and industry leaders and solution providers for these really powerful conversations. And we covered 33 different industries. And I thought at first, it couldn't be that different on how all these industries are using IoT. But every industry is different. Every industry has their own slang. They have their own terminology. They have their own clicks, if you will. It's just so different on how they're all using it. And we noticed it wasn't just IoT. It's AI. It's all of the advanced technologies that are really being just propelled by the pandemic. As the webinars got longer and longer and longer, we've changed our format to be summits. So that way we can have each expert or leader come in and provide a little bit more detail into that specific topic. We do 5 major events a year, which are very interesting. Whether you're new to tech or you're very experienced, there's something in it for everyone. We do an emerging tech event in January, a Green Things Summit focused on sustainability in April. There's an Artificial Intelligence, Intelligent Thinking AI Summit coming up in July. And then we do a Summit of Things that kind of pulls together all the information into this 3-day virtual event. All of our events are virtual. And then we do an award show every December. So definitely keeps me very busy in addition to being a new mom.
Sounds like you definitely have your hands full with all of that. But I think it's great that you guys have been able to see what was coming, that the emerging trends that are coming in technology and pivot and create these now summits. I think that's a very smart idea. Is that free to people?
It is free to attend if you register prior to the event, and then we also offer it on demand for a fee.
I'm definitely going to be checking it out. I recently came across something that really stuck with me, and that's where in the tech industry, it's long been a male-dominated world, and it's kind of a trend here on the podcast. We're talking about male-dominated fields, but it seems that women have a really long way to go to fill that gender gap. In fact, they put it into years. There's a network called the Women Tech Network, and they said 95 years is how long it would take to actually fill that gender gap. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it was more obvious when I was at my previous position, which was at GeoTrack. It was a company that was a tech startup creating the world's smallest IoT module, which was the size of your pinky, and you connect different batteries, antennas, and sensors, and it could relay data. And so I was new to IoT. I didn't even know what the Internet of Things was, which is pretty much everything. It's just like your refrigerator. It's just quietly running in the background. You're not exactly sure how it's working, but it's always there. It's everything from your connected refrigerator to your connected coffee pot to an industrial setting, sensors that are measuring everything in a factory. And I could go on and on. There's one of my favorite ones is a water leak detector where it can, detect a water leak before it actually gets out of control. So when it comes to being a woman in that field and being new to the field in itself, it's like such a learning curve. And I think it was really in your face when I would go to the trade shows. And given I am blonde, young, much younger than most of the people there in addition, but seeing some of these males' faces when I would go up to their booth to talk to them, it was an immediate like just kind of the eye roll almost, and not really taking me as serious as they would if it was just another guy coming up to their booth.
Right.
But now that everything's virtual now and that I really have the confidence that I need, I think confidence plays a big role in it too when you're looking at how you're treated in tech. So in the beginning, it was a little rocky for me, but now I'm at a different level. So it's a different look, a different way that people look at you, whether you're a male or a female. But it's definitely a male dominated industry still. And I've been at several tables where I'm like, oh, the only woman again. It's getting there, though. There's lots of women in tech conferences and different ways to support each other when you're a woman in tech now that weren't available before.
Yeah, that's great how that's evolving. I had a conversation not long ago with a gentleman, and it was just basically my experience in the world of media, which is, a lot of the leadership is very male dominated, versus like the sales side, which is more female. But I was talking about my experiences and he goes, that's not still happening in this day and age. Yeah, it is. You still have that. You still have people that have a bias against women in leadership and technology and in media. But I think women like us who are out there really showing that it doesn't matter what your gender is or your hair color or anything, that doesn't speak to the experience or your ability to perform a job.
Absolutely. And I think it's been male dominated for so long. I can see why it would take 95 years to reverse what's happening, because just looking at photos of people attending a conference and you see these dinners where it's all the guys, there's not women at these dinners. I mean, these men have families, I can understand where they wouldn't, want their wife seeing that they're at dinner with another woman, whether that's in a professional atmosphere or not, but it's still a thing.
Yeah. That's crazy. Well, you were kind enough to fill out our guest form and give us some input there, and I appreciate that. One of the things that stood out was how you talk about balancing the tech innovation with parenthood. How do you manage the juggling act, especially on the days where you're just like at your wits' end, and what's keeping you really grounded?
Honestly, I am so in love with my son that he just absolutely blows me away every day. And I'm sure that it's hard for him because in a lot of family settings, the mom leaves the house to go to work. So I'm sure it's confusing for him that I'm either on my computer or my phone and that I'm doing my work in that manner rather than like leaving the house. So he's confused. He's like, why aren't we playing? Why aren't we playing? And especially if it's a week where there's an event that we're doing and I'm recording a lot of content and having a lot of meetings with the different speakers that we have appearing in our content, it does get tough. But I always just try to meditate, breathe, just remember that it's going to be okay. If I'm ever a little frustrated, I just take a breather.
I've worked from home and now I have an office suite, and it was, for me, getting an office space was a necessity to get away into a quiet space, only because I have more children than you do. So it's a little bit louder in my house, especially with teenagers. But I know what that's like. Sometimes I think it's also hard when you're doing that remote work or, working from home to disconnect from work. Like I just want to keep working throughout the day and setting those boundaries. I have to pull myself away from this and say, okay, I'm going to dedicate this amount of time, or I'll take an hour break. I'm going to go be a mom for an hour and then come back, because work will still be here. But the kids, they're going to remember how they felt while I was working and have that memory of, oh, mom was too busy for me. And I never want that.
I would never want that either. And I have to say, I've got an extremely supportive group out here, that from my partner to my friends, that have really just helped to alleviate some of that frustration and some of that stress, because my parents are so far away. They're all the way in Ohio. So without them, it has been hard without having that, grandparent support. But I'm lucky enough that I've got people that are supporting me here. And the thing that I've done to really kind of make that timing a little easier is I recently bought a timer. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to play with you for 30 minutes and then mommy's going to work for 30 minutes. So it's, trying to figure out different ways to be innovative and make it work while still having time to focus. So he knows, okay, let's get this out of your system. If I play with him and I play hard, then he's a little bit easier to deal with, and I can manage my time a little bit better if I can really get it out of his system.
Yeah, that's a great way of doing it. And actually, that was a question that I had for you, was just, how has becoming a parent changed the way you approach innovation now from a motherhood standpoint?
Lots of different ways. I mean, I think that it's important to give kids as many experiences as possible. So I try to make sure that there's a time in the day when we're doing something outside, out of the house, getting out there and doing something fun when, I'm working from home so much that, it's important to kind of give him different elements to counter. And I am a very innovative person. So we have lots of activities and probably what most people would consider too many toys. But I try to, okay, we're going to play with not everything at once. We do this activity and then we move on to the next. So I think that's really helped in a lot of ways to give him somewhat of a balance as I try to juggle everything that I have going on with work and him.
Yeah, it's so different how kids are growing up now compared to us when we were children. I was talking to my daughter about, we did a Mother's Day podcast and she got to interview me. And she was like, what would you do if you could be 10 years old again? And I was like, well, 10-year-old me was different than 10-year-old you because you have technology. And back then I would just run around all day and I would play outside and I would run into the woods and play and ride my bike around the neighborhood. And now that's something that I actually would not recommend you do without me right next to you. Because the safety aspect is really important to me, and I'm super protective of her. But I'm like, I would probably do, if it was like in this day and age, I would probably be like you. I'd probably be on my phone taking selfies and doing dances, wouldn't be outside as much. We've created this world so fully based on technology that we need to somehow integrate that more with the outdoors.
I definitely have him outdoors a lot during the day, and I've not introduced technology aside from the TV. So he gets FaceTime with Grammy and Grampy, and that's pretty much it. Both me and my partner are very high tech. I'm sure that it'll come naturally when the time's right, but I just want to keep him, and then when he is on the phone or the computer or whatever he ends up being on later in life, there's so many risks out there of things that he'll get into online and offline. There's a lot more risks than when I was young.
I'm waiting for the day we have nanny robots everywhere. When our children had children, are they going to have nanny robots?
I try to stay open-minded with the field that I'm in, but there's just a human element that I feel is so important in aspects of every industry, every relationship. And I think humanity's losing that connection with others because we're so on our phones. I mean, it's so rare that you could go anywhere and be talking to someone and at some point they're distracted with their phone. It just happens naturally. So I think that the more that we can focus on those, human connections, the better off we'll all be.
I completely agree with you. It's hard to even go to a movie theater anymore and not see somebody on their phone during a movie. So we have definitely kind of idolized that feature, and sadly it's disconnected us from the human connection. So what are some trends that you're seeing right now on your end?
Some trends technology wise, I mean, AI is definitely the forefront of everything that's being implemented for technology, and there's few technologies that are coming out that don't have some element of AI within it. So there's the generative AI, which is amazing, some of the artwork that it's capable of doing and some of the ways that it can optimize time for videos and everything possible, writing. It's unbelievable ability to take some idea that someone has and just manifest this amazing final production in a matter of sometimes seconds, sometimes minutes. It can write pretty much anything. Movie scripts it's writing, it's unbelievable. And then it can also do video work. It can optimize pretty much anything that you're working on. It can do it in a fraction of the amount of time and sometimes better, which is great. But at the same time, it's not great because there's artists and writers that have studied for so long to have these skills. And then this AI comes along and it can just do it in a split second. And I've got friends that are artists of different aspects, and some of them, they'll create these really cool hair looks and styles that they've had, and they put a lot of time and money into those looks that they develop, and then the AI comes along and just replicates it so fast and can just deliver it to anyone that wants that kind of look to them. And that's just one area.
I love what we have with AI now. I think it's great when we can use it as more of a tool than a replacement. I think it's great that it can generate those things, but I think right now it'll evolve, and be better. But for the time being, I see where it kind of spits out the same thing over and over. Whereas like artists will come up with original ideas, or maybe it's something to help kind of motivate them. And whenever they're struggling with what's next, what should I create next? But I think maybe in the future, it's going to turn into being really closely more human.
And it depends on what prompts you're putting in, but I see the same thing that you do, where there's so many posts and articles and emails that come through where you can just tell the AI came up with the idea and it wrote the whole thing. But depending on how much effort you're putting in will definitely affect the output of what it's able to produce, because it's really dependent on what information you give it. Where if you're really relying solely on the AI to create everything, of course it's going to sound the same.
Yeah.
But some of the other big trends that I'm seeing are AI agents. I think it's the year of the AI agent, because agentic AI can take over an organization. I've seen different stats where companies are reducing 70% of their workforce, where AI has replaced their job because they were able to optimize it through these agentic systems that can pretty much run any function across any company. So that's something to keep an eye out for. And the other thing is robotics. I mean, what's happening with these humanoid robotics? You talked about the nanny bot. It's definitely out there. I'm sure it'll be optimized before it's really implemented to a wide scale. But just the number of humanoid robots that are being built that aren't actually in the hands of its users yet, when they are, it'll change the world.
Yes, definitely. So for anyone listening, what advice would you give them when they're trying to break into tech right now?
I would say find your passion. Find something that you do well, an area that really is of interest to you, that you could shine through, and maybe leverage AI, because AI is going to be with us. We need to figure out a way to work in tandem with it. The other thing is look for a mentor. Look for somebody that can help guide you and be your support circle. There's lots of different organizations out there, and you can pretty much get in touch with almost anybody on LinkedIn. So reach out to whoever you feel would be a good fit and strike up a conversation and see if they would be supportive towards you and whatever endeavor and profession that you decide to choose.
That's great advice. And as we were talking about world of AI, now is the time to take advantage of that. There's going to be so many different careers that are developed off of AI and robotics. To find a mentor right now, I think, is the ideal time, especially for those that are recently graduating, especially from high school, and kind of looking at college and what should they get into. And there's so much to be said about mentors outside of even like a college or an institution of some sort, that you can get that more personal hands-on experience from, because they have that real world experience for you to tap into that you're not going to get on a college level.
Absolutely. And, it's the ability to start younger and younger is definitely something that wasn't available before, because now there are so many free resources online that you don't really have to go through the steps of getting a college degree to really get there, with all of the tools that we have available now. So take advantage of those.
That's great advice. So we always like to wrap up by asking, what is it that gets you through your day?
Definitely my son. My son is definitely my sunshine and my point of happiness. So I know whatever I'm dealing with work, at the end of the day, I'm going to have some quality time with him. And that definitely helps get me through my day. And plus Xander Vision, that nightly phone call with Grammy and Grampy is always nice too.
I love that. There's nothing better than family. So I can completely relate to that. Even though I only live 2 hours away from my family right now, we do the same thing. We have our nightly calls with each other, and just to have that connection. I love that about technology right now, that it doesn't matter where we live. We really ran with the Back to the Future movie where they were doing the video calls. And I remember watching that as a kid going, man, that would be so cool, to us actually making that a reality that now is so beneficial for us that are living long distance from our family. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on your podcast. It's been fun.
Thank you. Where can people learn more about you and your company and your upcoming summits?
You can register for our events and learn more at iotmktg.com. You could also look me up on LinkedIn, Tiffani Neilson, and I'm happy if you shoot me a message on there. I'd love to hear from you and be as supportive as I can to anyone watching that needs a little empowerment.
Awesome. Thank you, Tiffani. Thank you to everybody that is listening today. We will have more information in the description about Tiffani and company. So you'll have links to go and contact her if you would like, or if you would like to join one of the upcoming summits. I highly encourage you to do that. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and support us so that we can continue to reach other women who are on their journeys personally and professionally. And we will see you soon.
Thank you.